What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is going to be one of the first things where you're really learning a formula for me that you can use going into the future, and it's called 1-point perspective. Next week, soon we'll learn about 2-point perspective. They're both important, but right now let's stick to 1-point perspective. How do we do this series of lines going towards a vanishing point and turn it into 3D shapes that all look like they belong in the same world, like they're all being seen from the same point of view, from the same perspective? Ooh. Hello everybody, it's Dees coming to you with another drawing lesson today. I'm very excited to be teaching you about one of my favorite things, something that I got obsessed with, really obsessed with when I was in school, and this is perspective drawing. The first thing that we're going to learn is the basics of 1-point perspective. That's the first thing that I got to teach you. It's the only thing that makes any sense to start with. Then we'll work to what can you actually make out of 1-point perspective in the next video, how to do 2-point perspective, what can you actually make out of that. We'll go forward with stuff, but for right now we're going to start with the most basic. So I have this, the fact that it's triangle doesn't matter at all. It's just a ruler to me. It's just a straight edge that I can draw a line with. Today we're gonna start off with 1-point perspective. So I have this little box here that I can show you. It's where I get my glasses. So for 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective, the main difference is whether you're drawing the front edge of it or whether you're drawing the front line. So the line's gonna come into play in 2-point perspective, but today we're gonna be doing 1-point perspective, which means we start by drawing the whole front edge, and then I'll show you how to make it look like it's fading back into space. So the whole first front edge starts here. I'm going to start with a horizon line. You've heard me talk about it before. If you haven't watched the other videos, you got to go check those out. But the horizon line is just I usually do it very light, somewhere near the middle of the page, and it's what separates the ground from the sky. What it really is showing you, and this is the first time that we have to talk about this in the drawing series, it's showing you eye level. Eye level. Where's the eye level of the viewer of this? So wherever you move, the perspective of things change. Sort of if you look at this box and you see pay attention to how much of this edge you can see. As I turn it, you see it changing and changing, and you can't see it at all. You can see the other one, you can see it some. That is how perspective works. That's what I'm teaching you how to draw. So your eye level changing up and down is what changes that perspective. So we need to draw where that eye level is going to be. And on there we need to draw what's called a vanishing point. I'm going to put mine a little off to the side, put it right here, and I'm going to label mine with a big V. That's not normally what you would do, but since it's the first time we're ever learning about this, that's what we are going to do. So I'm going to start off, and like I said, you got to draw the front edge of that three-dimensional thing. So I got to start off with a front edge of something. I'm going to just draw myself a little sketchy little rectangular box here. You can start with anything. I suggest you start with something that has corners. It's a little bit more complicated if you draw something with no corners. Since I know I'm going to keep this whole front, now that I know what size I want it to be, I might darken it up with my ruler a little bit. Not going to need to erase this later unless I mess up my line right now, so don't draw too dark. That's why I drew that little sketch first, to figure out where I wanted my corners to be, and then I came in to straighten it out some. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a sketch. We're just learning how to do it. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, because I want this to be solid, I want this front edge of this to be a whole solid thing. You can't see through it. Pretend it's, I don't know, a cardboard box. That's what I showed you so far, so pretend it's a cardboard box. It's the front edge of a cardboard box. Now, does that look like a cardboard box? No. Would some kids draw that? Would some students draw that? Yes, adults too. That's all they could draw. What I'm going to show you is how to make it look like it's going back into space. So what I have to do is, because it's solid, I have to pick the corners. I have to connect my corners to the vanishing point. But because it's solid, I don't want any corners. I wouldn't trace a corner that would draw a line inside of this box. So let's check them out. Start with one corner at a time. This corner right here. Can I connect it to the vanishing point and not have it cross through the box? Yes, this whole line would be outside the box. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure I start right on the corner. And this is going to be light, because the line from there to the vanishing point, you are going to erase. I'm drawing it as light as I can, or as dark as I can, and be able to erase it to help you see it. But you should draw it really light. It should be a little ghost line. How about this top corner, this other top corner, this one right here? Can I draw a line from here to there without crossing through this box? I think I can. It's kind of close right up here, but I can get there if I just follow the ruler to that same line. And then, let's see, how about this one back here? we're onto the third corner. So if I trace from here, this corner down here, all the way up through the vanishing point, what's going to happen right there? I would wind up drawing a line through it. If this was see-through, I could do that. If this was a glass box, but that's not what we're drawing right now. So I'm not going to draw that one. I'm going to skip that one because that would break my rule. It would cross through my shape. And now I got to make sure you're lining up in the same point as everywhere else. Go from this corner. I can manage not to cross anything there. So you saw my ruler popped up a little bit. Good thing I was drawing light. I'm going to press down with 2 fingers because that's what smart people do. And good artists do, is press down with 2 fingers, keep anything from turning or popping up. Now, perfect cardboard box, right? No, that's wrong. That is not a perfect cardboard box. I've drawn the closest side of the box. I've connected the corners that I can to the vanishing point. Remember, I didn't do this one because it would have crossed through, even though it's solid. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is I have to decide where I'm going to end the form. How long do I want it to be? Do I want it to be short, so that it's only going back a little bit? Do I want it to be long, so that you can see how way far back that this is coming? I think I want this one to be nice and long. So the secret that I know is I can choose anywhere on this line, and it can be that long. It can be super, super long, however far I want it to go. But wherever I choose, I want to draw, see how this comes from, this line comes from this corner, and this line comes from this corner, right? So it's this corner to this corner. And I want the line to be parallel to whatever the edge is. So I want my line to be parallel to this. So I'm just going to line it up, and I'm going to slide it back and decide how far back do I want this to go. Right there. Double check, make sure it's parallel. That's why I love a clear ruler. Come down here. Alright, so now, what do I need to do? I need to close up the other side. This one goes from this corner to this corner. So, if I'm going from this corner to this corner, it has to be parallel to this line, the line that connects those two. And where am I going to know to stop sliding it up this time? When I hit this corner. When I hit the corner that I made with my last line. That's where it gets a little complicated. If you need to pause, rewind, go back and listen to that again, it would be totally understandable if you need to do that. It's better to learn it now and know it forever. So when I drew my first edge, I took it back however far I wanted, but it had to be parallel to this edge. So I wound up with this line. And it hit this other corner here. Now I'm going from this corner to this corner, right? This corner to this corner, so it has to be parallel to that line. And I'm going to slide it up until I hit the other corner that I had just created. Slide it up, slide it up, slide it up, slide it, burp. Make sure it's parallel. That's why I love a clear ruler. Draw that line not too dark, because sometimes you go too far and you don't want to ruin anything. Now, I can come in with my eraser, and everything behind that can get erased. Try to be really careful when I get right next to my box, because I don't want to lose any of my angles, but I also don't want lines that are coming, past where they're supposed to, or just a little bit short of where they're supposed to. So I try to erase exactly. Sometimes you use the corner of your eraser the way that you would use a pencil, like drawing a detail. You really need to pay attention to exactly where am I going to go and remove this line, because I want to keep some of it. And that's just part of being an artist, learning how to use every art tool kind of the same way, where you're paying attention really to what is this going to do, not just rubbing an eraser randomly around and hoping that magically it decides to erase the things that you don't like and leave the things that you like. We're done hoping for stuff like that. Now, okay, I'm just gonna decide on my light source, so I put it up in this corner. I always put mine in the top right corner. That's just to kind of keep things the same for viewers through this so that they can see that. But you can put yours wherever you want to. You could put yours underneath and coming up this way. It could be underneath and coming up this way. It's really up to you. So this way, this one's going to be pretty dark compared to the other one. So I'm going to darken this up a little bit. There's a video on how to shade a cube earlier. It'd be a great one to look at if you haven't looked at it. Help you out with this a lot. But really what I'm doing is I have flat plane. This one will be the furthest away from the light, so it'd be the darkest. This one's getting closer to the light. And it's a little on the side, so it would be middle. And it'll probably get a little lighter as it came closer to that edge, towards the light. This is called hatching or cross hatching, depending upon I'm doing the one set of lines or the two set of lines to make it darker. When you cross them up, that's cross hatching. And then the top one would be the lightest because it would be getting the most. So I'm just going to do just a little spaced out hatching, but definitely the lightest side. Darken this side up just a little more to get things even and show that fade coming forward. Boom. And let me see. Could I do another? I might put a shadow on there, something like that, but that's not what we're working on right now. We're working on 1-point perspective. So could I do something else? Yes, I could. Now what if it was a shape that has no corners? A shape that has no corners, you say. I'm going to get myself something round so I can have a nice, easy little trace a circle here. Now if you want to know how to make that look like a ball or a sphere, that is easy, and we have a video on how to shade that, but that's all shading. What we're going to do is we're going to make it look like it's almost like a paper towel roll that's going back towards this vanishing point. Whenever it's in the same universe, each page is a window into a universe. Think about it like that. And whenever it's in the same universe, it uses the same vanishing point. Later on we'll do things that have multiple vanishing points. Right now we're doing 1 point. 1 point perspective is what we're learning, and we're only using 1 point. So what I do now is very simple. Instead of that old searching the corners and seeing what crosses and what doesn't cross, I hang my ruler right from the vanishing point, kind of anchor it right there, and then I turn it like a pendulum, or like a thing that swings, like, and then I just wait from the vanishing point to the object. Where does it hit first? Where's the first place that it hits? Hasn't quite hit yet, hasn't quite hit yet, hasn't quite hit yet. Boom! Okay, we got it. We hit the shape. Soon as you hit the shape. Don't go too far, don't go too short. Soon as you hit the shape. Lightly draw your line that connects. Soon as you hit it. Let's start from the other side. Start from the other side. And we go swinging around, swinging around, swinging around, swinging around, swinging around. Not quite, not quite, not quite, not quite. Got it. Got it. So, I like to scoot it out just a little bit because the tip of my pencil actually takes up a little bit of space no matter how sharp it is. And I start right from where it hits and take it back. And I got myself kind of a weird, looks like I could draw a clown's face on here and be wearing a birthday hat or something. But that's not what we're going to do. We learned with this that when we were cutting in the back, deciding how long we wanted it to be, and we were cutting in the back, we had to make the same edge as there was in the front, right? We did it here to here, and we did it here to here. So as difficult as it is, we got to decide how far back do we want this to go, this cylinder, and then we got to try and match this curve, because that's our edge that we're making it parallel to. So these are still train tracks, just like these two lines are train tracks, just like these two lines are train tracks, but they're going to be train tracks that are making a turn. So how far do I want it to go? I want it to be nice and long, kind of like a paper towel roll, like I said. So I'm going to go back there, and then once I decide where I'm going, I kind of, in my mind, I trace without touching. This, boop, 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 get that feeling in my hand. What is the curve? And then I just go, ooh, it's something like that. Something like that. And then I do the same thing as I did last time. It looks pretty good to me. Maybe I need to actually curve it down a little more. And then I erase the extra just like I did last time. And I darken up my edges. This is the furthest away from the sun, so this would be the darkest place. And because this is round, it's just going to be a nice fade going around, getting a little bit lighter as we go. If you need to look up how to do that, they're called value scales, and we learned about them earlier. Remember when I said everything that we learn early on, we're going to use it later? I was not lying. If you are like me, like I was when I was young, and you skipped through some early lessons because you're like, this guy's stupid, yo, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's teaching me stupid stuff that I already know. And maybe you need to go back. Maybe you didn't know it as well as you thought you did. I promise not to make fun of you, because it used to be exactly how I am. Let me see, what do I want to do? I'm going to make this a closed shape also. We're not worrying about learning hollow shapes, but because this is pretty far away from the light, this would be pretty dark, I think. Obviously, I could have made that look hollow if I wanted to, but that would have taken a whole nother sort of lesson of teaching you about stuff. And right now we're just learning how to make things with 1 point perspective. Now, could I do the same thing with a triangle? Yes. Could I do the same thing with a crazy organic shape and then use that sort of pendulum swing to find where it hits? I absolutely could do that. Could I do that with a letter? Graffiti artists do it all the time. Could I add shadows down here? Any of that stuff I could. But when it comes to the basics, of 1-point perspective, boom, you got it. You draw the front edge. You connect all the edges that you can to the vanishing point. And then you decide how long you want it to be, and you make parallel lines to the edges of the front shape that cut it off. Erase everything extra, shade like you need to, and you got yourself some actual real deal 3D looking stuff. What I would like you to do in order to practice this, maybe draw five shapes on one page, and then flip the page and move where your vanishing point is, either up, down, left, right, and try it 5 more on that page. So try one with a high vanishing point that's to the left, try one with a low vanishing point that's to the right. Feel what you like, learn what it changes about the way that the drawing looks in the end. This is really important stuff that we're going to move forward, we're going to use. So you need to practice it some before we go ahead. If you're still with me, you're doing awesome. If you haven't seen all the ones from the beginning, go back and watch them so that you can catch up to this and know what the heck we're talking about and not get lost, because we're getting to the difficult stuff, but the difficult stuff is the stuff that pays off and makes you actually become better at art. If you're ready for the level up, you found the end boss. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this thing. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so now what you're going to do is you're going to practice what you just learned in this video, and you're going to do at least 10 different shapes on 2 different pages. If you need 3 or 4 pages to get 10 done, that's fine by me. I'm not going to judge you for that. Let's just make sure we're getting it done. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last thing that I wanted to say. This is going to be at the end of every video, I do believe. When you are done with your homework, take it on over to the Discord and turn it into the art submissions. We want to see what you're working on. I will pop in from time to time, usually around 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't get weirded out by that. And I will give you feedback on the work that you have done. So make sure that you check the link below so that you can get to our Discord and you can join these submissions and start putting your art out there for people to see, give you feedback, help you get better at. I got a bunch of artists that have already gone through my class that hang out in there, and if you think you're going to do something funky, you're not, because my mods are going to get you. You understand what I'm saying? I might be a boomer, but my mods are powerful zoomers. I'm not challenging you, though. Please don't mess with please, just be nice. Just do the artwork.